Salut! In this video, we're going to be talking about changes that will impact freelancers and business owners in France in 2025. Every year, a new budget is voted by the government and that impacts business owners in France. This year is a bit odd because we've changed Prime Minister. In December, we had Michel Barnier and now we had François Bayrou or François Bayrou. Even French people don't agree on what to say, Bayrou or Bayrou, you can say both. But anyway, we don't have a budget and this is likely to be taking until at least the end of February because the Mr. Bayrou is going to say what he wants to do, then it will be discussed by the Parliament and the Senate and then it will be implemented. However, by the end of 2024, there were a few rules, there are a few laws that were voted and they are being implemented since the 1st of Jan 2025. So you want to be aware about them and see how they may impact you. And we're going to be talking especially about the new social charges rate for some of the micro entrepreneurs, the new rules on gites and AiBnB's owners in France, the new VAT threshold, and also the central INPI website. For those who don't know me, I'm Valerie Aston and I help expatriates prepare, create and manage their first business in France so they can focus on developing their new activity and enjoying the new lifestyle. So let's get cracking on those new changes that may impact you in 2025. The first change that we're going to be talking about is the increase of social charges for some micro entrepreneurs. You might say, oh no, not again. But this is not necessarily bad news because this increase is due to the increased contribution towards your top-up pension. So those of you who will see an increase are specifically profession libérale. So those of you working as consultant, coach, teacher, your social charges, if you created your business after 2018, your social charges this year are going to go up from 23.1% last year to 24.6% in 2025. So I'm going to show you my table in a moment summarizing the different social charges rates. Basically, if you created your business after 2018, your social charges rate is going up again on the 1st of Jan 2025. You might have noticed if you were in business in 2024 that rate went up in July 2024. And unfortunately, it will go up again on the 1st of Jan 2026. It will go up to 26.1% next year. Let me show the table. This table is extract from my micro entrepreneur fact sheet that you can download. I've added the link below the video. It summarizes all the numbers I'm going to be talking about, whether it's the micro entrepreneur social charges, the VAT rates, and so on. So it's a nice one to have as a recap for all activities. You can see here that I have summarized the social charges rates for different activities, and we're looking at those two. Down the bottom, you have profession libérale, registered after 2018, so your social charges rate from the 1st of Jan 2025 is 24.6%. And for those of you who created your business before 2018, good job on you for being there already. For those of you, your social charges rate are going to be remaining the same, 23.2% of your sales. They did increase slightly last year, but now they're remaining at the same amount because you relate to a different body for your pension. You're relating to a body called CPAF. Now you may wonder, why is this going up, another tax? And to me, it's not necessarily a bad news because basically as a micro entrepreneur, you weren't contributing enough towards your pension. You have the national pension that everybody contributes to, but with that you have a top-up pension, retraite complémentaire. And before, micro entrepreneurs weren't really paying into that part apart from people who are relating to CPAP. So they're fixing this, and really this is helping you in the future because you're paying more money into the pot and therefore you will have a better pension. So those are the new social charges rates applicable from the 1st of Jan 2025. You will notice this when you go and declare your turnover for yourself. And for those of you who are about to register your micro entrepreneur, I would recommend that you download my micro entrepreneur fact sheet so you have the data, up-to-date data on the rates and thresholds. Now let's talk about the new rules for gite and AiBnB owners in France. Now this one is a major shift for expats and it will impact you whether you either have a holiday home in France that you want to rent but you're not resident in France, you still live in your home country. If you live in France and you want to run this gite and AiBnB as a business, and here we're talking both whether you are declaring it as a micro entrepreneur, so sole trader business, or whether you have a non-professional gite and Airbnb, which we refer to often as LMNP for non-resident or for people who have a secondary source of income. So for instance, you might have a micro-entrepreneur as your main business or a sole or a SaaS, and beside that you might have a flat that you rent and that you rent as a non-professional gite and Airbnb. This impacts you. So to summarize the rules, I will show you a table that will recap everything in a moment. Before 2025, holiday rentals that were classified, or what we call the B&B, chambre d'hôte, classified as meublé tourisme with VAT France, had a maximum yearly rental income of 188,700 euros and an automatic rebate of 71%. So your maximum rental that you could take in over a year was about 188,000 euros, and to this the tax office would apply a standard rebate of minus 71% that was reflecting your business expenses to run the activity. Now, since the 1st of Jan 2025 and the new anti-Airbnb rules, this tax allowance has changed significantly. So now, if your gite or Airbnb is classified as meublé tourisme with VAT France, your maximum yearly turnover, for instance, as a micro-entrepreneur, is 77,700 euros per year. So they're basically considering that now you're not like a trading activity, buy to resell, you're a service, which is quite true. You're not selling items, you're selling a service. So the maximum yearly turnover per year is 77,700 euros if your gite is classified with VAT France, and I'll explain this in a moment. And your automatic rebate is minus 50%. So it went down from 71%, which was a huge tax loop, to minus 50%. And now, if your gite and Airbnb isn't classified with VAT France, then we're going to way down to 15,000 euros of rental income per year, and the automatic rebate is only 30%. This is a policy that's been pushed by the government, where a lot of towns don't have enough accommodation for people to rent on the long term. So what they're saying is that they want people to become more professional. I'm going to explain a bit more about this in a moment. So as you can see on this table, I'm just summarizing the maximum turnover, 77,700 euros if you are classified. Here we have the rebate of minus 50%, and 15,000 euros if you're non-classified. So I know when you look at this, you think, oh, that's scary. What do I do? What's in between? What if I do much more? Well, the answer is you just move to a different regime like Réel Simplifié, or you move to an incorporated business. A few clarifications before I talk about the impact on your activity and the strategies that you might want to adapt for this. First of all, being classified as a meublé tourisme doesn't mean just get listed with your mairie. You know that if you have a gite or Airbnb, you have to declare your activity to the mairie, and we talk about being declared as meublé de tourisme, but this is a pure administrative task. When we talk about being classified as meublé tourist, that means getting in touch with VAT France or one of the recognized bodies from the network, where they're going to come to your gite and Airbnb. They're going to validate the quality of the equipment that you have, and they're going to give you a ranking from 1 to 5 stars. This is what we call being classified as a meublé tourist. So basically, in order to get that higher rate, the rebate of minus 50% on your rental income and the maximum turnover of 77,700 euros, you need to get classified with VAT France. So that's going to be on top of your list, your to-do list for 2025. That's going to be on the top of this. What is the impact on your strategy? First of all, for those of you who are business owners or people going for a business visa with their property, I would say that the micro-entrepreneur is still a good fit, but you definitely have to get your gite and Airbnb classified with VAT France this year. That's the top of your list of what to do in 2025. As soon as you land in France, you get in touch with VAT France and you get the process started to get classified. And this is going to be working if your property is in a fairly good condition, there isn't major investments to be done, and you are probably handling the changeover yourself, cleaning the pool, cutting the grass, and the cleaning. For a business where we might have high investments, you have to do the whole decoration, 2 new kitchens, 2 new bathrooms, you need to have a sauna and so on. Or if you're using external services for the maintenance, for the changeover, you might be considering moving to an EARL or a SAR, which is a French incorporated business. That will start making more sense, because with that type of business, you will be able to deduct the running expenses, so the cleaning services, the pool maintenance, the grass, the garden maintenance, and you'll be able to depreciate the equipment. So the Freelancer will start making sense. However, it's not the easiest one to start, so that's why I tend to say try to do 1 year as a micro entrepreneur and then move on to a SAL once you've settled down, you see what you want to do with the property, you've worked on your plan, and you're ready to invest. In that case, you would prepare to do the switch. So to summarize, for expats moving to France, I would say go for a micro entrepreneur for the first year so that you get into the French system, you see how it works, you start making your own plans as what you want to do with your property, and then move to an EARL or a SAL once you're ready to act on those plans or those big investments, or if you have a very large property that needs a lot of investments, a lot of people working for you, go for the EARL and SAL from the start, but make sure you get some advice so you know how it works. Now, for those of you who are non-residents in France, so you're staying in your home country, or for those of you who are living in France but for whom the gite and Airbnb is a secondary source of income. So you have a pension, you have a business in France, you are an employee, and this is a top-up income. We're talking now about the non-professionals. I would say go for the very start, the easy one, non-professional LMNP, where it's capped at 15,000 euros. If you just want to test the market, this is the first time you're renting your property, you want to test how it goes, you're not really sure you want to do it, or you have low running costs because you're going to be able to do it yourself, or there's somebody doing it for you cheaply, go for this to test it. Like, for instance, you might just have a few weeks that you're renting per year, maybe just the summer, and you think you're going to be staying within the 15,000 euros, go for what we call the micro big LMNP, that would be enough. However, for those of you where you think, well, there's no way I'm going to make 15,000 euros if I book it 4 weeks in the summer, I'm just already above that, or I'm not living in France, there is somebody managing, I have a conciergerie service looking after the property for me, there's some maintenance and some investment I need to do, redo the pool, I need to add the jacuzzi, I need to change the kitchen or the bathroom. When you have high investments, basically you're going to go to a different regime. You're going to go for something that we call régime réel simplifié, where you tax on profit. So you're still not professional, but from the start you say, I want to go under the regime, which is régime réel simplifié. As you can see, running a gite and Airbnb in France to me is still feasible, but the government is pushing for property owners to become more professional. They want you to move to the next level up, to be under régime réel simplifié or go for an EARL or a SAL. They want you to move to a regime where you will have an accountant to do your loss and profit account and handle your declarations. So they got something more stable. So you have to get ready. You have to track your numbers to be able to see which regime works best and prepare for it. Again, if you want to find more about this, you can book the Power Hour with me when we talk about your potential setup, what works best for you, so that we can go ahead with the registration. And for the gite and Airbnb course, you can just send me an email adding waiting list in the title. Let's talk about changes for the VAT threshold. So a new decree was voted on the 21st of December, which is actually changing the VAT rules. We now have some new thresholds, so they've changed slightly more, slightly lower, and a new rule as well. So those new rules I'm going to be sharing, they've been voted, they've been set for 3 years. So normally there's 25, 26 and 2027. Before I show you the table, just know that when you register a business, most of the time people decide to start with not to be VAT registered, which means that until they reach that threshold, they don't charge any VAT. And once they start going above, they're going to have to start applying VAT rules. So depending on whether you're working B2B or B2C, whether your customers are in France, in Europe, or internationally, you're going to be applying some different rules. So for now, what you want to know is that you want to know for your particular activity, what is the VAT threshold above which you're going to have to start being careful. That's it, being careful. Sorry about that. And to make things a bit more confusing, we actually have two thresholds because the tax office is saying, okay, watch out, this is the first threshold called seuil de base. Know that once you start getting above here, you're going to have to be careful because soon you're going to be VAT registered. So that's called seuil de base. And then we have the seuil majoré, so the increased threshold. And once you go above this one, boom, that's it, you're VAT registered. And in between, they say, okay, watch out, you're about to become VAT registered. So let me show you a summary table for micro entrepreneurs showing you the activities. Watch out, that's going to be pretty scary, plenty of numbers. So let me show you this because I have to show the rules as well for 2024 because some of you were in business in 2024. So remember, if you were in business in 2024 for last year, you do apply the rules that were still applicable for 2024, but from now on, 2025, you have to watch for these new rules. So in this table, I'm showing you the summary for the micro entrepreneurs. So on the left-hand side, you can see the different activities. Activité commerciale, so that's trade, buy to resell. The second one is for classified gite. Yes, it's normal if just before I told you about the maximum turnover threshold of 77,000 euros. Here we're talking about VAT, we're not talking about the maximum turnover. So this VAT threshold applies for all businesses, and basically it would be somebody who would be a different regime than the micro entrepreneur, since 91,000 is above the new 77,000 euro of turnover. So we have the classified gite who would then be under a different regime. We have the activité artisanale, so that's the manual activities, and we have the activité libérale, profession libérale, the coach and consultant. So you can see 2024 seuil de base, so that's the basic rate. Below that you're fine. Above that, the tax office would say, oh, watch out, you're about to become VAT registered. So in 2025, those thresholds have slightly increased or reduced. So for activité commerciale is actually reduced by 7,500 euros, and for the services it's increased slightly for the seuil de base. And the seuil majoré, so that's the second one I was talking about. Seuil majoré is when the tax office say, too bad, now you're above, you have to be VAT registered from that moment on. So in 2024 for trade it was 101,000 euro. In 2025 it's slightly lower. It's once you go above 93,500 euros, boom, the first year or above, you have to start charging VAT. So the threshold has actually reduced for this one, minus 7,500 euros. If I look at the manual activities, whether it's the artisan, whether it's the profession libérale, so the coach, consultant, and the manual activities, the threshold has actually increased, so plus 2,150 euros. So it's now 41,250. So that's the first thing, is that those two thresholds have slightly changed between the bottom threshold and the top threshold, and those new thresholds are applicable until 2027. Now, the second rule that you want to know about for the VAT that has changed as well is that before, when you were in between those two thresholds, so when I was saying about those two, seuil de base, seuil majoré, when you were in between, the tax office was saying, okay, you're a bit naughty, but you can stay there for 2 consecutive years before you do become VAT registered. And so it would be really after 2 years that you would become VAT registered. From now on, the tax office says, as soon as you go above the seuil de base, so as soon as you're above that first yellow column, seuil de base 2025, too bad, next year, 1st of Jan, you will be VAT registered. So you finish off the year without being VAT registered, but 1st of Jan next year, too bad, you are VAT registered. We just have that, we don't have that 2 years delay to actually get ready. Now they say, too bad, that's it, you just have a few months, 1st of Jan, you are VAT registered. So you know that if you go above that first threshold next year, you're ready, becoming VAT registered. And for the seuil majoré, it means that as soon as you go above by €1, from that day on, you have to start charging VAT. Now, the slight change for this one is that before, in 2024, if you were getting above that VAT, that top VAT threshold, the tax office said, well, okay, any invoice that you've sent in that same month, all those invoices have to include the VAT. So it was a bit of a pain because sometimes when you didn't realize, you had to reissue some invoice. So let's say you went over the threshold on the 20th of March. Well, too bad, all the invoices before that, they were considered to be VAT included. So you'd have to correct them, get in touch with your customers, or you'd have lost a bit of margin. Not very nice. And from now on, what they say is actually, it's on the day that you go over. So if you go over on the 20th of March, is those invoices after that need to have the VAT. So that's the key change that is taking place for the VAT in 2025. I know it's not fun, but if I summarize the action that you would have to do once you go above. So once you go above that seuil majoré, the very top one, or once you've been in between and then the 1st of Jan, you have to get ready for this. Here's what you would have to do. You would have to request a VAT number from the tax office called the Service Impôt Entreprise. You would have to choose which regime, your VAT regime you want to go for. We have 2 regimes to choose from. You will have to update all your information on your invoices to make sure you have all the VAT information. So you update it according to which country you're invoicing to, you add your VAT number, you add your customer's VAT number, and you also need to know what are the VAT rules that are applying to your activity, because as I mentioned before, the rules are completely different if you work B2B or if you work B2C, and it's also different if your customers are based in France, in Europe, and the EU. So my advice to you is really you want to keep a track of your turnover so that you know when you are about to get over the VAT threshold, and you want to get ready at least 1 month before so you have the time to do what I've just done. And I would advise you to book a power hour with me, because that's one of the things we do. We book an hour and brief you on the rules that will apply to you according to your activity. We get your VAT number and you know how to get ready so that everything is in place when you are above that threshold. The last change that I wanted to talk to you about is the central hub for all business registration, update and closure. It's now official. The only one that is remaining is INPI, so it's procedure.inpi.fr, and this website replaces the many sites that we had before. Before we had URSAF, we had Guichet Unique, we had Greffe and INPI. 1st of Jan, all have been stopped. The last one that was remaining was Guichet Unique, but now the central hub is INPI, whether you want to create, update or close a business, and whichever kind of business you go for, whether it's a sole trader like micro-entrepreneur, entreprise individuelle, or an incorporated business such as an EARL, a SOL, SAS, SASU, it is INPI. This is in order to make things easier, but as I register many businesses, I can tell you that behind it is still not 100% on track, or still not 100% easy, because first of all, just when you create your account, you have 3 ways of creating your login, and as an expat, you just want to keep this one I'm pointing to you right now on the screen, because the others are going to be a nightmare because you're not in a French system yet, so you're going to go for the easiest one. Now, I want to give you a few warnings before you go ahead and register your own business. Please, please, please don't second guess your options when you register your business, because this will have an impact on the taxes that you will pay and on your asset protection. Often I see people coming to me, and when I take over the registration, I can see some really bad things, like they've added their spouse on the business when they didn't need to be there, they've picked the wrong tax option for VAT, they've picked the wrong protection. So don't second guess. You've made loads of progress by moving to France and landing here. Take the time to make sure those choices mean something to you. Don't pick random boxes. My second warning is not to rush into creating your business ASAP, just to realize 1 month later that you are going to be changing houses, or the activity that you've listed isn't really the one that you want to be doing. Because with INPI, it's okay to create a business, but the business update for an expat is a nightmare, simply because they've added some security tools where they're going to check your ID, and unfortunately that ID check is gone through a website that French people only have access once they start declaring their income tax. So you have the France Connect, which is a nightmare for expats. If you don't have a social security, you don't have an income, an impôt account, that's going to be pretty bad. So there's a few loops to go through this, but it is really tricky and time consuming. So if you landed in France and you know that in a month's time or 3 weeks time you're about to move houses, move house, and then register the business with the new address, unless you've already signed the contract with the new address. Same thing in terms of activity. Really think hard about what you want to do. Is what you're choosing now what you want to be doing in 3 months? Because in 3 months' time to update it, that's going to be a nightmare. And as I mentioned, the entry point is central, but in the back office, we're still dealing with different offices. Some of them relate to URSAF, some of them relate to Greffe, some of them relate to Chambre de Métier. And if you picked something that is with the wrong body, you're going to be paying the wrong social charges. They're going to be rejecting your application. So don't rush. Think about what you really want to do and choose the right activity code. You don't pick up randomly, because according to what you pick, you relate to one body or to the other. And by law, according to who you relate to, you're going to have more documents and more proof to provide. And the last one, my last warning, is to stop fidgeting with your business setup and your business activity. I know that as an expat, you want to have your business papers quickly clean when you get to renew your visa and your carte de séjour. And so many of you are really worried that the description doesn't quite fit in with what they're doing now, that they try to change things and then just create a mess. France is still fairly flexible, although initially you have to choose the subcategories once you set up. Quite often when you talk to me about changes, I say, well, that's not really a change, that's a subcategory of what you are doing. You might say, for instance, I'm a coach and now I'm going to do online courses. You're just going to do, it's a different media to sell your services. You're still a profession libérale. Let's say you were a consultant and now you want to be giving teaching classes. It's still within the same category. For those kind of things, don't worry so much about updating it. If you registered for e-commerce, selling kitchen equipment, kitchen appliance, or for the kitchen, and now you want to sell home decoration objects, it's not so far. It's still e-commerce. As long as it's still e-commerce, you don't really need to update it. So stop fidgeting with your business with your business setup, because that's going to be creating an amount of stress. As I mentioned, updating a business is really hard. This week I had somebody spending 7 hours trying to update something which wasn't necessary, just because the visa renewal was coming up, but it wasn't necessary at that point. So take the time in the first place to see what you really want to do. And if you know that in 3 months' time you want to add an extra activity, for instance, let's say you start as a consultant and you know that in 3 months' time you're going to be adding a yoga teacher, set it up from the start as consultant and secondary yoga teacher, so at least you don't have to touch it. And the final thing is this website. I know we say it's the central hub, it's just the central hub for creating, updating, and closing. So you create the account, you keep the login details so that when you want to change it or move or close it down, you have access. But you're not going to be using that website at all to manage your business. Sorry about the bad news. When your business is all set up, this one, we don't need it at all. We're now talking to yourself, we're now talking to INPI, and we don't need to use it, but you need to keep the login details somewhere. So if you want to change in the future, you can do so. As you can see, some of those changes are quite significant for expats who are moving to France, or those of you who already have a business in France. You can also see that some of those topics were quite complex, so I will be covering them more in the future, so make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be talking more about gites and AiBnB. I will be recording a new version of the Micro Entrepreneur overview video. I'm waiting for the new budget just in case it changes something else. But I'm going to keep updating you on those so you can feel confident with your business. And in the meantime, I will suggest that you watch this video. Salut, à bientôt!